Hey, everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers pregame presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me today, it is Mr. Flyperbole. That's right, it's Steve Jaco. How's it going, Steve?
Oh, Bill, I'm pumped for this matchup today. It's a real clash of the Titans. I just think it's amazing. Just the Devils were on top of the world, not quite on top, but they were doing pretty darn good. And then this Hughes injury hit them, and then the Flyers. I mean, I can explain how the Flyers are where they are, and I guess you can explain how the Devils are, but it's not good either way.
No, both teams coming in on 3-game losing streaks. The Devils actually one of the worst teams in the league since the Christmas break. We'll get to them in a little bit, but it's really incredible what's happened to them. You know, they go out and get Jacob Markstrom. They really last year you're just like, yeah, man, injuries and goaltending kind of sank what we thought was going to be a Stanley Cup contending season. They start hot this year, and then suddenly, I don't know, man, maybe Columbus is going to catch them for the third spot. Like, the Devils will probably get into the playoffs. It seemed like a lock even just a few weeks ago, but here we are, and they're clinging to that third seed in the Metro Division. But we take a look first at the Flyers lineup today, Steve. Not a ton of changes, not much they really can do at this point. But we do have Ivan Fedotov coming in for Sam Ersson, and we have Cam York returning from his one-game healthy scratching. And, of course, they are taking Emil Andre away from us because we just need more Yegor Zamula in our lives.
I can't get enough.
All right. This is what Kelly and I talked about yesterday, Steve, in terms of the York stuff. I have no problem. You know, he played really bad on Thursday. This is John Tortorella's thing. We kind of just got to accept it. I have no problem with coaching the boys hard, and when someone hasn't been great for most of the season, you got to do what you got to do as a coach. Also, I want to see Andre play, so that's cool. This can't become a regular thing with Cam York, because if you're not sure you want to give him the long-term extension this summer, that's fine, because I'm not sure either. If you think his best value is as a trade piece, I might not disagree. Let's keep it that way. And, you know, Charlie in postgame yesterday said, did they really tank Morgan Frost's value? Yes and no. Like, Morgan Frost wasn't, I don't know, all that highly regarded around the league to begin with. Like, and it's also been, you know, a year since all the Morgan Frost scratchings really happened. And Morgan Frost tanked Morgan Frost's value more than anything else. Cam York, though, at least as a young, could be really good piece, still, I bet, has a ton of value around the league. If he sits 10 of the last 18 games, that will not be the case.
Yeah, I mean, you got to play these guys. Like, I think Torts didn't help Morgan Frost's value. Like, Torts coming out there and just saying, like, yeah, I'm kind of done with this guy, or whatever his exact quote was. Like, that didn't help. Like, I'm sure that wasn't the end-all, be-all. They're still going to rely on what their scouts say more than anything. But as far as negotiations go, it didn't help. And this stuff doesn't help with Cam York. Like, he's got to play. You got to get Cam York in that lineup. Like, he's not doing us any good not playing. And the whole thing is, this is not, like, the moves they made at the deadline just say, this is not a playoff team, okay? I know they're, like, within range. Like, JJ keeps bringing it up on the broadcast, and I have to, like...
Buffalo!
Right, like,
you know,
everybody in the East is within range because the East is weird. But, like, just because you're within range doesn't mean that you're actually, like, a contender for it, and they're not a contender for it. All the moves they made, trading Frost and Farabee away, trading Kuzmenko away. Kuzmenko ended up being a really big deal because, like, that's a guy, that's an NHL player that you can have in the lineup. Say whatever you will about Kuzmenko. The guy is an NHL player, and that's an NHL player you could have in the lineup every night. And, like, not having NHL players in the lineup hurts. I don't know. It's just like going back to York. I kind of got off on a tangent there, but going back to York, like, you have to have him in there, and you have to understand who he is to give him that extension, or to cut bait and trade him somewhere. Build up that value. Put him on power play 1. Like, get him some numbers. Get him some looks across the league.
That keeping Risto up there after the deadline, and with Emil Andre and Jamie Drysdale in the lineup was an interesting choice for me. Now, that said, he is like the only defenseman with a shot of getting a puck through from the point. I do think Emil Andre, given the opportunity, could do that. But
yeah, and I mean, like, do we need to see more
about,
Zamula?
Yeah,
that's what I'm coming back to too. Is like, I've seen enough Zamula. I know who Zamula is, and Zamula's got a very low ceiling. Yeah. Cam York has a high ceiling. Like, we've seen Cam York excel in this lineup, and like, I don't need to see Zamula ever again. Are you trying to win hockey games right now, John Tortorella? Because the moves they made are tank moves, and what are you doing?
I don't know if they are, Steve. I can't say without a doubt that John Tortorella doesn't have his finger on the scale a little bit. Like, you know what? I could use some freaking talent. I know how to get it. I'm going to run Sam Ersson into the ground. I am going to dress all of these guys. I am going to not dress Cam. And listen, I don't think Cam York's been very good this year. He's had his time. He's been okay. I'm just not sure about him. If this I want to see more of 8 years, I don't know. I don't know what that contract looks like and if I love it.
Right. Like, I know we had some trouble with the Sanheim contract when it was signed, but like, I think we had a pretty good idea of who Travis Sanheim was at that point. And we've seen some highs and lows from him since then, but we have seen his ceiling is very, very high. When Travis Sanheim's on his best, he is a top pairing defenseman. He's not a number 1 defenseman, but he's a top pairing defenseman. I don't know if I've seen that from Cam York per se. Like, I've seen him play very good, but I can't necessarily say that I've seen him be like the top pairing guy. And by the way, Bill, the warm-up lines have dropped.
Oh, okay. What do we have?
So what we're rolling right now. Forrester Kate Sprink stays together.
Of course.
Okay. Tippett, Couturier, Mishkov stays together.
Of course.
Lixell, Paling, and Konechny. Delorier, Bowles, and Pelletier. So, oh boy. And then on defense, you got York, Sanheim, Sealer, Drysdale, and Zamula Ristolainen. So not a lot of surprises.
No. I would just love for Andre. Listen, I know that they think higher of Zamula than most of us. I think he's an NHL player. I think he could do a lot worse as a 6'7" guy than Yegor Zamula. It's just like, at a certain point, I don't think you get rid of him or move. Like, he's a young guy. He's cost controlled. He's cheap. He's under team control. You keep a guy like that around. But does he have to play every game?
Every game? Like, what are we doing with that?
He's
like,
a lineup staple. Once, like, Emil Andre's up here, let's give him. But it is what it is. This is what they're going to do. Maybe after the back-to-backs this weekend, they get into more of a rotation and get Andre in there for Zamula. It just seems like Zamula Ristolainen makes sense.
It does make sense.
The way Drysdale Sealer makes sense. Like, this. All right, we have this smaller guy. We're not sure how he can protect himself in the corners and stuff. Well, let's give him the biggest dude on the ice then. Like, I don't know. It just seems to make sense. But all right, that's the forward lines and D pairs. Let's talk about this goaltender, Steve. It's Ivan Fedotov today. Comes in, and honestly, his numbers have been creeping up. He's now at 5-9-3 with an .885 save percentage and a .308 goals against. And yeah, that's not good. But he is meeting Ersson in the middle right now in terms of incline and decline. Ersson is down to 889 and 297. So these two almost, by the end of the year, they're going to have put up identical numbers. Ivan Fedotov, his last start, he earned his first win since Black Friday.
What? I didn't realize that. That's insane.
When he beat the Jets last Saturday, it was his first victory. He gets the W in his record since the Black Friday win over the Rangers. He also relieved Ersson against the Flames earlier this week. He takes the loss, but he's got a .948 save percentage in his last two appearances. He stopped 9 of 10 in that relief appearance after Sam gave up 4 on 16. What the hell is Ivan Fedotov? Like,
I don't know. I really don't
what?
know. And like, I'm glad he's not, because when we first saw him this year in that Calgary game,
Yeah.
I thought he was a dumpster fire. Like, I thought this guy's got to go back to Russia right now. I never want to see him again because he just looked lost out there. He looked worse than any goaltender I've ever seen in my life. Since then, I can't understand, I can't explain his style at all. And the weird thing is when it works great. Like, he's not Hasek, right? But like in the way that their styles are inexplicable and chaotic, it does seem to work sometimes. But what is he? Is he a backup? Is he somebody we can rely upon for the duration of that contract? I don't know. I don't think he is, but like they got to play him a bit more though, because Sam Ersson looks toasty. He looks burnt to a crisp out there right now.
That was our conversation yesterday. Like, I'm not saying Fedotov or Kolosov or anyone's better. Sam Ersson is the best goalie, at least the highest ceiling of this group. Like a guy who, if you had to bet on one of the goalies to go out and give you at least a solid game, it's him. It's absolutely Sam Ersson. But it's pretty clear to me now that he has 100 appearances in the league. He is not a number one goaltender. I think he's a very good backup on a better team. I think he could even be a backup who gets more than average backup usage, maybe closer to a tandem role, but he is not a starter. And since I think we have the answer to that question, can he do it? No. Since we have the answer, we need to stop using him in that role where it's like, oh, well, it's Sam's net, obviously. Like, most teams in the league don't have an unquestioned number one starter. We are getting the worst goaltending, and it's like, well, we got to stick with our guy, though. Like, do you? Because it ain't working. And yeah,
gotta stick with him. Gotta.
Ivan Fedotov, the first few weeks of the season, I thought we were working towards a contract termination by Christmas. Like, he's going to be back in the KHL on New Year's Day. That's kind of where I thought this thing was heading. I'm not going to say he's been great. Anyone with eyes knows he hasn't been great. But it could be a lot worse most of the time with him. He's had a few clunkers in there, but everyone does. I kind of want to see him the rest of the year, see where it goes. But do you expect him back on the roster next season?
I think it really depends on what they want to do next year, because like this year was clearly a let's see what Mishkov is, let's see how Forrester progresses kind of year. Like, I don't think there were high expectations for this season.
No.
So, and let's see who the goaltenders are, right? And I think we've seen a lot of that. We've seen Mishkov's a stud. We've seen Forrester excel defensively and everything. And we've seen that the goaltending, we don't have a clear-cut starter of the lot. Any of the three that we've seen are not clear-cut starters at this point. Kolosov could develop into one at some point. I don't see that personally right now, but like definitely not right now.
Yeah.
Sam Ersson really seems like he's got an Alex Lyon career ahead of him of, you know, just kind of bouncing around and being like a decent backup and everything. But yeah, I don't expect Fedotov right back now, but like a lot of that depends on what they do in the offseason and how much, like, obviously, like, what is their plan? Are they trying to go get big game hunting, bring in a center? Are they trying to, you know, upgrade this roster to compete for a playoff spot next year? Because if you are, you cannot go into it with this goaltending right now. You have to at least get a tandem guy for Sam Ersson to play with.
Yeah, that's the, like, going in another year where it's like, well, we're going to depend on Sam to start like 50 games. Like, why? Yeah, why? For what reason? And going into next year, I'm still, maybe Fedotov, if he finishes strong, you can make the case, but I wonder if this is headed to, if not, like, probably so much depends on Kolosov. Like, if he really just doesn't want to play in the AHL, if next year he's like, yeah, I'm staying in Belarus. If I'm a Phantom, no, I'm not. You know, if that's, all right, well, then I bet you we can get Fedotov through waivers, and it's maybe him and Bjarnason down there next year. You still need to go get a guy. I cannot imagine a world in which it's Ersson Fedotov next year. Like,
it sounds like a disaster. And as somebody who has to podcast about this team on a weekly basis, that's not something I particularly want to watch. Just because, like, I think the bigger factor here is not so much Fedotov, who he's been okay. Like, I think he can be a backup. I don't like it, but I think he can be.
Yeah.
But Airson, I don't think at this point what you were saying can be the starter, the clear cut starter. Like he just,
And that's the
he's been hurt too much, and also like his play is too inconsistent. Like the play, we've seen him just have some clunkers lately, just some awful. He sucked yesterday.
and that's the thing about like Airson's numbers is like, yeah, man, he had that stretch last season, like November through January. He's a 930 goalie. It's like, oh, that's sick. And then you look at his year-end numbers and go, like, how wasn't that like stickier to the top than something bringing him down? It's because his ceiling might be high, but his floor is so low, he just ends up giving it all back. And we're seeing the same thing this year. From like Christmas through last week, basically, Christmas up until Four Nations, he was at like 920 or something. Now his save percentage is dropping precipitously. He's at 885. Like that's Pelly Lindbergh. Like this is like 885 is 1985 numbers. That ain't normal. That's not.
We got a 1985 number one, Bill. That's what matters.
It's well below average.
Ron Hextall Vesna numbers.
Like Airson right now, his numbers are just well below average, and his play has been well below average. And you can't have a number one who is this inconsistent.
Well, especially
I do think you can depend on him in a tandem or backup role. It's clear when he gets this sort of usage, it kind of snowballs.
I don't think he can handle the workload. I just don't think he can handle the workload that comes with being a number one. And again, I know that's not the role that a lot of goaltending plays in the league nowadays, but like, here's the thing. He's trying to be the number one. Like, he wants to be the number one. He's putting himself out there, but he ain't it, kid, at least not right now. And if this team wants to do right by Mishkov and Konechny next year, like, next year is a good time. Like, I think 2026 is when we all talk about the Flyers really making the leap and like trying. But like, I think you have to make some steps next year in the right direction. And if you want to make those steps, you can't do it with the goaltending that they have now.
Yeah, and listen, if they think next year is just more of the same, well, I think that's an odd use of Matvei Mishkov's entry-level contract. That is
and Travis Konechny's prime.
Yeah, it is kind of the, I don't want to say downside because, like, listen, we got to watch him and it's dope. And I think a year or two under Tortorella will help his overall game down the line. But one of the competitive advantages I thought they might have with Matvei Mishkov is he comes over in a few years after being drafted, and suddenly he is more a prime age player on an entry-level contract. And then you look at how that cap opens up and go, oh, so we have like 23, 24-year-old Mishkov on an ELC. We can buy anything, and that's how we're going to kind of be competitive in this window while Travis Konechny is still, in his late 20s, early 30s. But he comes over early, and that's awesome because, again, we get to watch him, and I think the coaching will help down the line. But you're going to have to just plan a little differently now. Ultimately, though, like, we get to see Mish, but they can't, like, if next year is just more of the same, I guess you can come back with these goalies.
It's hard to screw around when you got talent like that up here now. Like, I don't want him to develop like a loser attitude or anything either. Kelly was talking the other day about how the culture does matter. And I think losing can be infectious. So if you're losing for a long period of time, like, also, like, we're talking about like certain guys going back to the KHL. Like, I don't think Mishkov would do that, but like, I don't want to chance it. Like, I don't want him to play for this just like loser franchise for a couple years. And then like, it's like, oh, wait, I could be doing other things and be making a lot of money. Like, let me just go back home. Cool.
I just don't want him to be miserable the way like Connor Bedard looks miserable, Connor
Bedard looks like a beaten man, and it sucks. Like, I mean, honestly, I am happy as a fan of the Philadelphia Flyers who lost to the Chicago Blackhawks in the 2010 Stanley Cup Final. You might have heard. But, so I do like seeing them miserable because it was also like, it felt like the league like rigged that draft for them because I don't know. It just felt like it. And
let Charlie hear you say it.
I know. But That's the fan feeling, is
Yeah.
like they feel like they bend over backwards for Chicago because it is one of the biggest cities in the US and they want that, that fan base to be happy. And when they're there, they're there. But when they're not, say what you will about the Flyers, right? But when they suck, the fans still show up pretty well. Chicago doesn't even get their games broadcast on television when
I
they
know
suck.
it was the big joke, like before they were good. Like their games aren't even on TV. Like they're living in the 1970s with just a radio broadcast here, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, they're on national TV every week. And now, of course, I find it very funny that the league on back-to-back days has the Flyers scheduled for national TV. Now this is the TNT broadcast at least today, Steve, so it won't be nearly as bad as yesterday is one of the worst sports broadcasts I've ever heard.
It's
Like
so bad.
I really try not to criticize like the national broadcast because I think it's a lot of people, like, it's just not what you're used to. You want the hometown announcers. And listen, like, I love JJ. I love all the hometown announcers in this city. They're all really freaking good, I think. But you kind of just get used to it, and then it's something else. And, if you lose like you did yesterday, so, oh my God, they're look at them. They're just all over the other team. Like, yeah, man, because they're killing us.
Yeah, they're killing us.
Of course they are.
But PK Subban is calling Philip Grubauer like a great goaltender. And I'm like, no, the Flyers just suck today.
He's a great goalie in the league. Oh yeah, that high stick on Cates, or on Paling. That's just hockey. Like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Oh my God. And it's like, I love the enthusiasm.
Yeah, like Leah Hextall says Scott Lawton never played in the playoffs before.
What
are we doing? Now you're just saying stuff that's blatantly wrong.
That was brutal. And here's the thing. I like the enthusiasm a lot of these people bring, right? Like PK Subban is enthusiastic. He's not good, but he's enthusiastic. And you could say the same thing about Buchagras, right? Like Buchagras, loves hockey. Like he loves hockey. He's not a play-by-play guy.
No, he's a studio personality, and he's great at that.
He's awesome at that.
I think PK Subban the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, PK, they're both studio guys. Like, you've got two studio guys out in the booth, and it's just wrong. Like, it's just not right at all. So TNT does a great job. The TNT broadcast, I think, has been one of the best things about the new NHL deal that they've had, and I think it's been a big plus for this league. I would give them all the national games if I could.
Honestly, yes. I wish they had the cup every year, not every other. All right, let's get to the bets. This pregame pick segment is brought to you by Bet365. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or somebody who knows a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Steve, I really, really thought about Flyers money line today just because the Devils have been so bad too.
And the Flyers have taken it to the Devils a couple times this year.
They have. They've won 2 out of 3. Now, the last one was a 5-0 win for the Devils. But the Flyers had won the first 2 meetings between these teams. The Devils are kind of in free fall right now. And it would just be so Flyers. Like yesterday, first game out of the deadline against another bad team. You get killed for conservatively 30 minutes of that game. Maybe closer to 40. All right, yeah, tank's on, season's over. Let's start the backup today, and let's lose all, of the 18 remaining games or whatever it is. Oh, yeah, we came out and killed the Devils. That would be the most Flyers thing ever. So I really thought about Flyers money line, but I only have one today. It is going to be Ivan Fedotov over 22.5 saves. It's at -125. So not a huge payout here, but honestly, just looking at these two teams and looking at what's available at Bet365, I'm like, I don't know. Can I bet on not enjoying most of today's game? Because that's what can I bet on my own interest level?
Right. How much?
I bet you after a period and a half, I'm like, all right, can we start post game?
What's the over under on me scrolling through my phone and playing games? Can we bet on that kind of stuff? Right. Yeah. Over under on number of beers drank. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't like Flyers money line because even with the Devils without Jack Hughes, you still look at the lineup and that top line is Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, and Stefan Noesen. Come on. It's still really good. They still have some elite talent on that team.
I believe Hischier was out in the last meeting. It's as bad as the Devils have been, just like Seattle yesterday, not a good team, but the Flyers have a whole lot of problems. 5 forwards in the lineup who are fourth liners or AHLers. That's what the quality of the player is.
You got your points leader playing on the third line
with 2 guys who've been on the fourth line all year. And Travis Konecny can't score all of a sudden. 20 goals through 41 games and has 2 ever since. I don't know. TK's scoring touch went away for whatever reason. Your best player is 20. Your goalies aren't good. I don't know. That's why I'm kind of staying away from the money line here. But take a look at the Devils. They are also on a 3-game losing streak. They have lost 4-5, Steve. They haven't won consecutive games since January 22nd and 25th. Since Christmas, they are 10, 14, and 3. A .426 points percentage is 28th in the league over that span. That's 5th worst. They are the 5th worst team in the league since Christmas, which it's we're not at even President's Day anymore. It's March, man. We're after the trade deadline, and they are one of the worst teams in the league since then. Only the Pens and Sharks have fewer regulation wins since Christmas than Jersey. 2.41 goals a game is 30th. They're only ahead of the Flames and Canucks. Jack Hughes is now out for the year. At first I was like, oh, out for the year, like an LTIR, little Tampa.
Like
Vegas.
Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, little Tampa Vegas action here. But no, his recovery time is 6 months for the surgery.
That is brutal. And, as a Flyers fan, I say, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's a real shame.
Real shame.
It'll just be a damn shame if Jack Hughes is the most talented guy in the league who only gets to play 65 games a year. That would be a real bummer to have a franchise player who's injury prone. That would just suck for them.
Oh, man, as somebody who grew up in the 90s, that would just be very, very sweet for me. Seeing them have to get rid of, seeing Parise go away from them was great because, when Parise came in, Parise was freaking awesome for them. And then when he signed in Minnesota, I was like, this is so good. Oh, and then Kovalchuk didn't work out for them. Just they deserve nothing but the worst. So
it's true. They won at least 2 cups that should be mine. They injured my all-time, the all-time greatest player in franchise history, at least what should have been,
until Mishkov.
Until now, until Mish. That's we looked at Mishkov's rookie numbers yesterday. Steve, do you know how many points Bobby Clark had as a rookie?
Oh my God, it's had to be something. 46. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Mish has 47.
Oh, I know. Because
there's 18 games left.
I won $3 on a bet I put in months ago for him to hit 47 points. I forgot about it.
I realized, I was like, oh, someone mentioned it on postgame yesterday. They had him over the 46.5. And I was like, I had that too. And found it. And I realized, it was leftover change I put on it after betting the Calder Trophy or something. So yeah, I won a few bucks. Damn it. I should have put way more on it.
I know. I put $5 down. I think I won 3. Yeah. And I was because I went in my account and I said, oh, I have $10. Where did that, or whatever the math was. It was more money than I had. And I was like, oh, where did that come from? Oh, we hit 47 points. So yeah, I should have put 20 on that because I mean, we saw him in preseason. We saw what a stud he was. And I hope he keeps it going today. I mean, he's been building up those points, even in that loss the other day, He put something up. So, I mean, if you're going for your bets, guys, Mishkov points. I mean, he's on a streak right now, so.
He's got a point in every game out of the break except for the game in which he won in the shootout. A pretty good run right now for Matvei Mishkov. We will see if he can keep it up during this very busy month of March, in which they're playing I think it's 16 games in 28 days or something, well over a game every other day, pretty much.
They're trying to kill you and Charlie.
They're just trying to ruin my love of this sport, and I will not let them, Steve.
They've been trying for a decade now, and you're hanging in there.
I'm doing everything I can. All right, that is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers pregame presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Follow us right here on the YouTube page. Set that reminder bell so you never miss a live show. Hit those notifications, and it'll tell you, hey, they're on. Go check it out. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers. It's where I do all my in-game tweeting. And follow the podcast as well, wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. All right, I am Bill Matz. That is Steve Jaco. Until postgame, let's go Mishkov.
We all silly like the mayor.